Okay, so this is probably more the reason I didn't want to spend a lot of time on auto trim. As you can see, once we finish this area, we click next. We're over here in the last of our second red flagged area. What they mean, really do this, guys. This is more informational. If you see thrust lost, or yaw imbalance warnings, this page outlines some checks and modifications that should be done to resolve the issue. I haven't seen any kind of those things. If I do, I know where to come back through. And this isn't bad to look through. It really isn't. There's really not much to do on this page. The biggest thing to do is to look through your telemetry logs after the flight for these types of messages. Thrust lost on motor 3. Potential thrust loss. And these. If you don't find them, fly. If you do, address them. So this last section here, thrust loss and imbalance. And then if we click one more at the bottom of this page, we're at indoor flying. And these things right here in this left side are on this page. And that's it. Next click, it's going to go down into here. That's outside of that red area that they want you to work through to set up your platform. And this is guidelines for flying indoors, which I really don't want to do. This one's pretty funny, though. They talk about flying indoors, that air pressure in a room can change due to doors opening and closing. So you could have your platform and altitude hold in the middle of a gym, and somebody opening and closing the doors to the gym could cause the platform to yo-yo up and down. Air conditioners clicking on in the room could pressurize the room. That would make the pressure go up. The likely outcome of a sudden crash in the floor or ceiling. So, I don't plan on flying. I did plan on flying indoors, though, but I was going to have it completely controlled. There's a room nearby that my brother knows about that he claims it's an indoor soccer field. I thought that would just be the best place to do these auto tunes. If you could just have all the doors and the heating system protected for 30 minutes, that the heating system doesn't come on or cut off and nobody opens any doors or windows. Just have the room static for 30 minutes. God, that'd be a great place to do these auto tunes, in my opinion. But anyway, I'm not going to do. That's the only time I've ever thought about doing any indoor flying. So that's it. That's basically working down these two red highlighted that they really want you to work through to set up a platform. Because when you click next here, you're going to go right into the next subcategory. What to do in the case of problems. Their flight features. Now, all of the rest of this stuff is wonderful to read. And see, down here's notch filtering again, advanced configuration, all sorts of stuff down through here. Pick out the things that are pertinent to your build and concentrate on them, and try to ignore the rest or it'll make you crazy. So, I don't consider this platform finished. I'm going to continue because there's certain things I didn't do. I didn't set up all my fail safes. I've got to set me up a battery fail safe, a fail safe switch. I've got to set up the actions of what happens when I flip that switch, because they have safe RTL now. If you fly on the other side of the hill and got good enough video and control radio to do it, you can drop down behind the hill. But if something happens and it goes into failsafe mode, it can pick itself up and come back over the hill instead of trying to fly through it like it did in the old days. I'd like to play with that, but uh, I'd like to play with the terrain following features. But there are still a few little things other than setting up my fail safes that I want to do before I call this build complete. And that'll be, for starters, the calibration of my current sensor. I think this is going to work. I'm not sure, but we'll get into it when I start talking about it. So this was just a little interlude in the build to let you know that I don't consider it technically done. I don't know. Some people would once you've gone through that first time setup and first flight and tuning, these two sections of this. Now, I think my current sensor is reading low. I don't know how low, but I just can't believe what I see. You know, whether or not the reading on my screen, OSD, wherever it's being, telemetry, CRSF to my radio, wherever that current reading's being shown, I can read it in flight. But you know, the bottom line is I can't do diddly about it. I can't increase the current except by throttling up. Can't decrease the current except by throttling down, something like that. I can't change the current calibration. It will show it going up and down. It will go to 0 if the platform burdens up in midair, and likely the video transmitter will stop. If it goes through the roof, there's nothing I can do about it. So I don't know why they don't talk about, I mean, they should in this configuration mention that somewhere. I don't know if they do or not down through here. I know in the compass calibration they'll probably mention advance. But I don't know if down through here anywhere. So I'm not too sure, in my humble opinion, that these two sections is completely, I don't think there's any way you can say, yeah, if you work through those two, you'll have, well, you can say that. If you work through those two, you'll have a flyable platform. Your current sensor won't be right. You'll probably want to clean that up. There's some things you can do for calibrating the temperature on the barometer and other little things that you can do to clean up the platform a little. There's an old compass motor compensation feature that the Honey Badger, when I brought it out, it had the oscillation problem. My H-Quads never had that oscillation problem. The Flame Wheel in its first, second, and third builds never had an oscillation problem. The F550, it's a quad, big quad, never had any oscillation problems. The last build of the Flame Wheel did, and this one did, the Chimera. But the Honey Badger's only others. Less than half of them have had oscillation problems from the original build. But when I did the auto tune on the Honey Badger, it did not take out strangeness in the flight. But it wasn't the PIDs. And consulting with some people and stuff, they pointed me towards a new feature at that time called compass motor compensation. And I think you're going to find that in the advanced configuration of compass. These are your normal first steps. Yeah, see right here it is. Compass Mott. Additional information beyond this step. More information about compass configuration can be found in the advanced compass setup. This includes instructions for how to set up additional compasses, automatic setting of offsets, non-standard compass alignments, compass mott, etc. Now, the honey badger never flew well until I did this compass mott, which is that wild one where you again take the platform and secure it, take the props off, turn them upside down, rotate them 90 degrees, and then you're going to put the platform with a current monitor on it, or after the current monitor is on it and calibrated, you're going to raise the throttle with the props on it between 50 and 75% for 5 to 10 seconds. 10 seconds becomes a long time when you got a flame wheel with 6 12-inch props on really powerful motors in front of you. You're trying to run that sucker at 75% on the ground. And then quickly, and this is important, drop the throttle back to 0. And that will compensate the compass for electrical interference and magnetic interference from the motors and the ESCs. After I did this one on the honey badger, the honey badger flew, except for the time I had a broken arm and it landed on the car lot. Like this, all of my quads. Let me think about that. Can't talk about the flame wheel last year. Let me think about all the rest of them. Yeah, aside from a few little problems, all of my quads have flown pretty good from the build. The flame wheel did not last year. It was a bucking bronc and just a pain in the posterior. I think I've got it figured out. But the honey badger was a little wonky until this was done on it. So this is part of the advanced compass setup that isn't part of this first time configuration over here. So unless I have some kind of problem that says I should do it, compensation for interference from the power wires, ESCs, and motors. And that compass is sitting there in the back of that platform between two motors, very close by. I'm not even sure it would be that close to a motor in an airplane. Not sure you do compass mott in an airplane. I'm going to go smoke over the airplane, plane really heavily after this, because, boy, the airplane bills. Did I miss a bunch of notch filters and stuff because I wasn't following the new documentation? I could have 8 drones I built over the last 2 years behind me over there that aren't really ready to fly, but I've flown one of them about 5 times and the other one about 3 or 4. They flew great. So, not sure what to do on compass mott. I don't think I'm going to do it until I suspect it needs to be done. Because it sure isn't in the documentation as part of your standard configuration anymore. It's not in the archives. If you look up here in this line right here and you find that it's an archived advanced configuration, you could be working, they've done that in this documentation too. Where it's, and then there's others that they've archived and they don't even let you get to it. You can't find it anymore. So tomorrow it's 10 p.m. at night now on Wednesday. I just had so much trouble with that auto trim video. Come on, for such a small problem and feature. Just kind of bad after the ESC 3-day flail. I don't like having those, but I do like doing it and learning, which I'm fine with the 3-day on the ESC. And I just didn't want didn't want to have to start flying an auto trim flight again tomorrow. I'm ready to test return to launch and get this thing christened. So I will be doing at minimum, let's see if it, what can you find in here about the barometer real quick? I don't think you find anything in here about the barometer anywhere unless you go in and oh, by the way, here's the last thing on that compass mod. Is the compass mod is mostly for flight controllers with internal compasses. This is recommended for vehicles that have only an internal compass and on vehicles where there's a significant interference on the compass from the motors, power wires, etc. In other words, this is only recommended for vehicles with an internal compass or any vehicle that has significant interference. God, come on, people. So, because of this little paragraph here, it's technically possible to set up compass mod using throttle, but this is not recommended. That's if you try to set it up without a battery current monitor, and I think your battery current monitor needs to be calibrated before you do this. So that's why I'm not going to do it unless it really becomes obvious that I need to. And I think that might be why they pulled it out of there, because they're not clear on whether it's for internal compasses only, or if the only is in air quotes, or anybody that thinks they could benefit from compensation for interference. Oh my God, help me. And on the barometer, there is a barometer temperature compensation. There's a little way right here to calibrate that, and there's a few other little things like that, and I'll just go over them hopefully tomorrow. I think it's going to be raining tomorrow, and then this build will be finished for me. We're going to go out and rip it. I hope it don't break. Alright, this is just a little sort of interlude between the main build and what I add on to what it seems like they've got in their documentation here. Thanks, guys.